Battlefield 6 has been out for a bit now, and it's taken the shooter genre by storm. The game has been putting up huge numbers and insane levels of hype and discussion that we haven't seen in the market for a very long time now. It's like the GTA 6 of shooters at the moment. I've been playing the game a lot myself and have been enjoying it immensely, going for challenges, mastering guns, and in general just blowing up a lot of tanks. Shout out to you engineer players out there. And all of that is credited to Battlefield's high-octane and addicting multiplayer experience that has existed for the better part of nearly 20 years now. With some caveats, of course, that every franchise has, but this is a return to form for Battlefield for sure. Specifically the modern experience that really took off with Bad Company 2 in the late 2000s and was replicated in its future titles. While Battlefield's multiplayers for the most part have been exceptionally good, they've always delved into creating a single-player experience with a campaign mode to appeal to those who don't always want to be in a war simulator and prefer a more laid-back experience. And also to copy Call of Duty's formula, but that's besides the point. Now, I think we can all agree that Battlefield has never been a pioneer with its campaigns regarding the actual gameplay in the missions. There wasn't anything that innovated the genre or anything like that. It's no Call of Duty 4. They did, however, used to reign supreme in the graphics department, but with technology these days, with things like Unreal Engine 5, it doesn't take much to match Battlefield's fidelity anymore. Especially their biggest competition being Call of Duty, which has had a massive overhaul with its graphics in recent years. Battlefield's campaigns do have some iconic moments and characters, don't get me wrong, but they never gained massive amounts of attention or praise from the community or FPS fandom at the time of their respective releases. Mainly just a pat on the back and a thank you for giving players some extra content to play. In retrospect though, a lot of the community have praised the campaigns for trying to be different in their approaches, but also giving some memorable segments that hold up to this day. We all remember the Rainbow Sprinkles trailer from Bad Company, the beautiful landscape of Battlefield 4 Shanghai, or Battlefield 3's Jet Mission. It's actually insane that this is a game from 2011 and it looks this good in 2025. We have actually downgraded as a species. What the fuck? Battlefield 6 was aiming to recapture Battlefield 3's charm specifically, and with its multiplayer, I thought the devs did a great job in bringing back the true Battlefield experience we all know and love. Personally, I think it's only uphill from here, according to what's potentially coming to the game. Campaign, though? It's alright. It's definitely better than any other single-player modes Battlefield delivered in the past 10 years, except the Battlefield 1 prologue. That shit is peak. But as a package, Battlefield 6's single player doesn't really shine like the rest for me. The campaign has a total of 9 missions that vary in length. Some missions can take 20 minutes and others can take 45, but the average is probably about 30 minutes per mission, with a rough completion time of about 4 to 5 hours on your first playthrough, which is pretty typical for my experiences with previous campaigns. For 90% of the campaign, you fight alongside the same comrades, that being your squad codenamed Dagger 1-3, made up of elite US Marine Raiders. Haz Carter is the leader and he plays the assault role of the squad. Simone Espina, who is the designated marksman of the squad and fills into the recon role. Cliff Lopez, who's the support member and provides you with ammo throughout the game. Lucas Hemlock, who appears in the second half of the campaign and his role is unknown as he's a very redacted individual with no info on his specialities. And lastly, there's Dylan Murphy, who is the character you play as most in the game and he runs the engineer role. So these guys are our protagonists for the game, and the developers were advertising and hyping them up before the game launched at the reveal events and in blogs, which is great. Awesome. It seems like they're really trying to bring back the style of characters like in Bad Company 1 and 2 or Battlefield 3. Just regular soldiers with some memorable personality. Epic. So let's load up the campaign and start learning about who all these guys are.
Murphy! Regional Command's got an update, boss.
Whoa, wait. Who the fuck are you guys? Where's Dagger 1-3 at? Yeah. They don't get introduced until the second mission. So immediately you're asking yourself, do we know these guys? No, we don't. But we do know who we're playing as. It's our boy Murphy. And instead of being accompanied by Dagger 1-3, we have Tempest 1-2 alongside us for this mission. Yes, I say this mission. We'll get to that. But for now, this is who we're rolling with. Travis Armstrong, Matthew Blake, and Elio Martinez. These guys are also in the Marine Raiders with Murphy, and the reason I want to talk about these guys today is because, in my political opinion, I think that these guys should have been the protagonists of Battlefield 6 instead of Dagger 1-3. I understand that this can be kind of a random statement to make, and not many people would actually give a shit, but it's a topic that I want to discuss personally because it's been on my mind recently, and these guys had me doubting all the mid-review scores published about this campaign. Yeah, I know. When playing the first mission, I was actually into the story, the world building, and the character development that was going on. I was genuinely hooked, and I didn't get why everyone was rating 4s and 5s out of 10. But after beating the rest of the campaign and replaying it multiple times to get all the achievements and challenges, like a weirdo, I unfortunately could see where everybody was coming from. Although I also came to a pretty staggering conclusion. This first mission, Always Faithful, is the best one in the game, without question. At least in my opinion, I'm just saying. I didn't think it when I first played, but after I'd finished the game and strung my thoughts together, I just came to the conclusion that it's just miles better than anything that comes after it. This doesn't mean that I don't like the campaign. It's just okay, like 3.6 Rontgen. Not great, not terrible. I thought long and hard about the game and compared it to its predecessors, specifically Battlefield 3, since that was the main inspiration behind this game. And I was trying to figure out what it is they've forgotten about Battlefield campaigns that give them their charm and iconic characteristics. Even if the campaigns themselves are just meh, they all have something that people love about them that stands out. The devs had me interested in Tempest Squad from the get-go, yet when Dagger shows up from Mission 2 onwards, I didn't feel as much connection to the characters and I couldn't really get into their personalities. But why? I went back and played Battlefield 3 campaign to investigate this further, and the first thing I realized was just how important the first scenes are when introducing these characters. In Battlefield 3, we get introduced to Misfit 1-3 after the prologue mission, and immediately it's obvious what the whole point of this game is meant to be: realistic. Both in its world, gameplay, and characters, and they get that point across very quickly.
Misfit 1-3, this is Misfit Actual. We advise you are crossing the LMD in 2 mics, over.
Copy that. Yo, does anyone else really not get what the fuck we're doing here?
Quit being a fucking hippie, Montez.
Just saying, bro, if this is about the PLR, we should be in Iran, not Iraq.
They're crossing borders, dog. PLR's the right people, alright? They don't make them any righter.
Misfit 1-3, this is Misfit Actual. We have a situation developing here. Get your team dismounted and into the staging area ASAP.
This is 1-3, copy out. What the fuck are we stopping here for? Our objective's 20 clicks north of here.
I don't know, Montez. Yeah, let's get out on the road.
Misfit Squad makes an impact because of how real they feel as characters. Their interactions don't feel forced or quirky to try and sound cool or badass. No, they just sound like a bunch of normal dudes in the Marines who follow orders, watch each other's backs, and one thing I loved personally is that they question orders given to them and they show their gut instincts at play.
Oh, God damn it!
The Russian Paras. Real Russians, what does that mean? Maybe they're working for Kafarov.
Look, either way, Steve, I'm concerned that we are slightly overmatched here.
Sergeant Campo, Sidra.
Sir, we are not equipped to take on a Russian brigade. Maybe we ought to rethink this.
This is maneuver warfare, Sergeant. If you don't like it, you can go join the fucking Air Force. Gentlemen, you have never let me down before. Now I fully expect you to accomplish this task.
Absolutely, sir.
No, Steve, look, I'm sorry, but that is completely unreasonable. I have serious reservations about this.
Sergeant Campo, Blackburn, push on, as required.
That's fast air!
It's a perfect showcase of their humanity and morals, but also a message of saying that leaders aren't always right and make bad decisions for various reasons. Tempest has similar characteristics where they come across as genuine guys and just good friends in the Marines together, as well as their interactions with Murphy where they try to decipher what they just experienced when getting attacked by packs and figuring out why it occurred.
Good God. Oh, this is some Article 5 shit. What kind of deck advantage is worth that? No, we're missing something.
NATO has to set us loose on this. Find some answers.
NATO's losing allies by the day, Murphy. If we got the truth, would they want to hear it?
And unfortunately, when the mission reaches its ending, we have to say farewell to Tempest Squad, as they didn't get to escape the base and were killed by packs in their downed chopper, with Murphy being the only survivor. You can tell there's a lot of setup between these characters, and as I said, their chemistry is great. They work really well together as a squad, and I was heavily invested in them. I should have actually guessed, though, that they'd die because they weren't promoted like Dagger Squad was in promotional material, so it was pretty much inevitable that they'd only be around for a short time. I mentioned mere minutes ago that first impressions are important with characters in order to gain our attention as players. Tempest did that with ease. They had my attention, and I felt attached to them a little bit as well. So, what's Dagger's introductions like?
Dagger, this is Pax's ballsiest play yet. If they succeed, they will have secured the most strategic rock.
There she is. El Peñón de Gibraltar. You all set, Murph?
Boring as fuck. The only exception to all of these is Hemlock, aura farming at any given moment like an absolute chad.
Shelves?
Gecko's got eyes on contacts.
Hemlock, what the fuck are you doing in my home?
Pax team's inbound. Either end of the block.
Yo, this motherfucker has no right being this cool.
Troops only. Nowhere to cover.
You think it's an extraction team or a kill squad?
I love how he's also wearing a mask that every beginner airsoft player ever wears that does nothing in terms of protection, but they always get that one black mask that has like a white spray painted skull because it looks cool. There's just no chemistry between all these guys. They're way too serious. No comic relief or some joke cracking to help cope with the fact that they're in, I don't know, a war. Constantly obsessed with getting the job done and becoming way too generic and bland. It's just go, go, go from start to finish, and you barely get any moments of downtime to engage with these characters and connect with them. While yes, bland isn't a bad thing if you give characters a personality, but these guys have nothing. No quality that makes them memorable or distinct from any other cliche soldier that's ever existed in military media. Stereotypical tough guy leader, woman who takes no shit from people, nerdy or timid guy who plays a smart role, in this case a medic, and the team player who cares about all his squad mates and just stays neutral as much as possible, as well as the guy who's been through a lot of shit and keeps himself guarded against people. They lack depth and meaning. Tempest Squad had the foundations and potential to have those things, but they only had one mission, so it's not fair really to call them boring. The fact that Tempest Squad made such an impact for me in a single mission that is one of the shortest, if not the shortest in the entire game, yet Dagger had multiple hours worth and I only ended up liking the dude who showed up halfway through. It's just kind of crazy that Tempest Squad's deaths were done in a much more poetic and emotional way compared to Carter's death later in the game, and he's meant to be one of the main characters. When a side character has a more meaningful death than a main character, you just know that there were some bad decisions made in development.
Martinez! Oh shit! Fuck!
All over those pretty horses there. Murphy, you alright?
Didn't check the corners.
While you can chalk Dagger Squad's lack of development down to bad writing or just lack of resources given to the campaign, since it has been reported that it was indeed rushed, there's also one big elephant in the room that I think could explain why Dagger is so lackluster compared to Tempest Squad in my eyes. EA has combined most of their big studios together to create Battlefield studios, starting with Battlefield 6. That being DICE, Criterion, Motive, and Ripple Effect. Each subsequent studio will handle specific aspects of the game. So DICE still takes care of the multiplayer, Criterion the single player. Yes, you heard me, Criterion. The studio that makes racing games was put in charge of making a single player mode for a grounded modern military shooter. Bit of an anomaly, right? But if you followed the development of Battlefield 6 in the last year or so, you'd know that this wasn't always the case. The campaign for Battlefield 6 was actually going to be made by a defunct game studio known as Ridgeline Games, and their studio head Marcus Leto was the guy in charge of that. For those who don't know who he is, that's okay. He hasn't done much in his game dev career anyway, just, let me check here. Yes. Co-created Halo and was the creative director of Halo Reach. Huge name to be working on Battlefield, and unfortunately his work did not last, as due to personal reasons he departed Ridgeline in February 2024. However, based on industry reporting, it's likely due to the layoffs that occurred by EA around the same time, and a lot of shifting with certain developers around. Once Marcus left, EA shuttered Ridgeline after 2.5 years of building Battlefield 6's narrative foundation, and some remaining developers moved into other studios for Battlefield and worked on other things. There are some reports as well that suggest Ridgeline's contributions were scrapped or reworked completely, but it's hard to know. With that context in mind, I saw the campaign in a whole new light, especially with your allies. Tempest Squad is what I think Ridgeline wanted to pursue originally, and Criterion wanted to create Dagger Squad as their vision for the narrative instead of trying to build off Ridgeline's ideas. No offense to Criterion, but a racing game dev team trying to pick up the leftovers from a gaming legend is an impossible task unless you're like Hideo Kojima or something. I'll put it in a simplified Halo context since it's relevant. Imagine Tempest Squad being like Halo 3 levels of potential made by Ridgeline, but when Criterion took over, it was like Halo Infinite. Weren't able to innovate, so played it safe and boring. I understand this might come across as unnecessarily harsh, but I really don't want to speak ill of game developers. Game development is hard, and I feel bad for developers who get put in these situations that have to pick up leftovers and rush out a product, or even get hate from players who don't know the full story of why a game might be the way it is, especially in the AAA space. I respect Criterion for picking up the pieces and pushing out a single-player campaign in the time frame that they had. You can see the difference in character between Tempest and Dagger like night and day. After replaying Battlefield 3's campaign, I could see that same DNA in Tempest Squad, but it just never got fully realized. Whenever they die at the end of the first mission, I genuinely felt a little bit sad over their deaths. They all seem so close, and it makes me think of a universe where these guys were the protagonists of the game alongside Murphy, and that the down chopper segment where you watch them all get killed one by one is like something you'd see in the depressing ending of a movie or something, and I mean that in a good way. Imagine playing for 4 to 5 hours alongside these guys, and then just as you think you beat the bad guys and survive the final battle, your chopper gets shot down out of nowhere, and all you can do is go down fighting together as brothers. It's a shame that Battlefield 6 had so many development issues regarding its single player. If Marcus and Ridgeline were able to continue development on Battlefield 6, I can't begin to imagine how top tier the campaign would have been. And potentially seeing a bit more of Tempest Squad, which of course I would love to see more of. And again, I don't want to throw any shade towards Criterion. They did their best with the time that they had and the resources they had as well. But I was just super disappointed that we didn't get a top tier Battlefield campaign, because we've definitely been needing one of those for a very long time now. Because Battlefield 6 was the first modern military battlefield in over 10 years, the expectations were pretty high for both the multiplayer and, in retrospect, the single player, and it's just a shame that we didn't get the full potential of the single player, especially that a gaming legend was originally behind it, so the hype was real. But hopefully EA has learned their lesson, and maybe next time they'll make sure to put somebody high caliber on the campaign and make sure they stay there. But at the end of the day, it was a fun little experience playing the Battlefield 6 campaign, and I don't regret it at all. But that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. It's just a short little video talking about the Battlefield 6 campaign. It was a topic that was on my mind for a while after playing it at launch, and I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. And I also want to hear more from you guys about the Battlefield 6 campaign and what your thoughts are about it. Do you think it's one of the better Battlefield campaigns, or do you think it's the worst in the franchise? Let me know. And if you've made it this far into the video, I do appreciate it. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.